Inspiration Nation. Hello, Lee Kemp here for another week on the podcast. Here with Ryan Boniface. Jose Noya sadly not with us. He is, and I quote, did he just say he's away this week? Were they your words, Jose? As
He
I'm
did
sure he
say, I
wants to be
think.
back.
I'm
Well,
pretty sure he
I'm
said he was
out
just
this
away.
week, dudes. So whatever you're out doing, Jose, we hope you're enjoying it. We know you're listening. So I'm going to leave a cryptic message at certain points during this podcast for you to enjoy. Ryan, how are you anyway, as you have turned up because you are not out this week?
No, I'm good, thank you. The dream team's back together.
Indeed, it's always the best when it's just you and me. Definitely. Don't know who that Jose bloke thinks he even is. Right. So, Ryan, I believe you do have a subject for us this week. So, what are we talking about?
I do have a subject for us this week. We are talking about a quote from a semi-well-known author. You may have heard of them, C.S. Lewis.
Yes, I'd say well known. You don't need to do semi well known on that. That's
So,
well
well-known?
known, I'd
Okay,
say,
okay, okay,
definitely.
okay. Um, for those of you that don't know, obviously, author of the Chronicles of Narnia. Um, the quote this week is, "You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending." This quote captures a pretty strong truth that we all live in, that we can't go back and rectify our mistakes. But I think the lesson of the quote overarching is that we can try and remedy anything that we haven't quite got right before something finishes. And not everything that stays finished can also be finished, if that makes sense. Um, I think it speaks to not giving up and pursuing the best outcome for the scenario that you find yourself in. Um, and by starting today, no matter how late, you can rewrite the direction of your story or anybody else's potentially story as well. Um, yeah, I haven't immediately thrown it over to you, but I've tried to put a
I
bit
like
of
you.
bit
You were
of
like, I'm going
spin
to
on
live
it.
by my sword now and not just do
I am 100% living by my sword. Joe's the only one that gets it thrown over to him last minute.
that. The last bit especially, there's a few bits it makes me think of with this, and I like it. But the last bit there about rewriting your story, because this is it. Is it's whatever's happened has happened, and you can't go
Yeah,
back and you can't change it. I see lots of stuff that says don't dwell on the past, and I think you've got to. You can't just dismiss it, but it's that thing, isn't it? You either win or you learn. So if there is
yeah,
something that's terrible, make sure you take your learnings from it to not repeat it or improve yourself or whatever it is. But that's as much as you do. Don't dwell on it, because
yeah,
everything going forward is new, and it's so easy to reinvent yourself. I think is the thing I was going to lead to. The story thing is whatever's happened, whatever that was, whatever that attaches to you, that can be changed in an instant. Put
yeah.
yourself in a new environment, just dust yourself off and try again. Own whatever it was and show your learnings from it going forward. There's loads of different ways to do that, but your past is your past. It doesn't define you forever. You can change it, you can write a new story, you can start again, you can have a redo of whatever it is. All of those sort of things. And I think this is being someone who's come from a place where I think I would have, when I was younger, done more where I was dwelling on the past. I was trying to avoid
Yeah.
saying dwelled on the past because I'm pretty sure that's not a word. But so I do know dwelled in on whatever happened in the past. Because it's like putting handcuffs on yourself. Just because something didn't work, it went wrong, or the worst thing, you embarrass yourself, you did something stupid, you really regret something. Even that, if there's something actually you've got to own and say, this was, I did the wrong thing, I shouldn't have done this, whatever it is, own that, learn from it, move forward from it. You can turn that negative into positive by doing that, because that's your choices. You can either dwell on it and that negative sticks with you and you risk making it into more of a negative, or you turn it round, you own whatever it is. And it might be, something you've got to step and apologise for. It might just be, that didn't go well, but next time I can do this instead. Or all a lot of variations in between. So I think there's a lot of good strength in that message. And I think I probably would have, hand on heart, sometimes things that I shouldn't have done. And a great example is when you're young and you're out with your mates and you're messing around and you go too far and you annoy someone. And actually, there's a point to be like, yeah, actually, I went too far. I shouldn't have said whatever I said or whatever it is like that. I own that. That's my mistake. Move forward. You run the risk of almost through shame or embarrassment, or whatever, where you almost double down on that and you make it worse because you don't want to own it or step up to it. Or, work context, you were in charge of a project, it didn't go really well. Don't just, don't then mask yourself as a failure because that thing didn't go well. Learn from it, talk about what you've learned from it, implement those things on the next time. Hopefully it goes well, or at the very least it goes better, and you take those things again, you turn those negatives into positives. I think it's
Yeah.
hard to do that though. I think it's hard to own your mistakes, but that's where you actually get the best outcome. I mean, I say this to someone who's never made a mistake, but I've read about them in books, so I think I can relate to that.
um, I think what you touch on with sarcasm, but is where I'm trying to get to is it doesn't have to be um, a rectification of a mistake. It could be that I don't know. You had a difficult upbringing, but you're able to turn your life
Yeah,
around,
yeah,
get
yeah.
an
That's
education, and do something with that. Or it just because the traffic light was red when you pulled up to it doesn't mean that everything's going to be a stop when you get to it. Just because your lucky socks on in the drawer doesn't mean you're going to have a bad day. And I think there's a lot to be said for um, there's a lot to be said for having a character stance that includes being really resilient. I
yes.
think being able to just roll with the punches, dodge and weave, and just keep moving is a really, in my view, an underrated um, behavioral trait that I think some people definitely can show really well.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't think it's not only is it underrated. I think if you were to list the top 5 things you need to be successful, resilience is in that list. And even as I say, top five, top 3 things you need to be successful. I think resilience is on that list. Absolutely.
yeah, I think um, I think people just sometimes feel like their story is written for them without there being any interaction for them. And I think that sometimes we'll get a bit philosophical, I guess, but I think that's a nice way to live your life if you can live your life that way sometimes, because you don't allow external factors to control your mood. You just accept that life will be what it will be, and um, it will continue. And I think personally, I envy people that can live that way. But I think it's for me, it's really hard to be able to live and feel without consequence. If that makes sense. I feel like there's always an outcome to. There's always a reaction from an action, right? Um, and I think I know I struggle. I definitely know that I struggle in making mistakes and then trying to iron them out afterwards. If I don't get something right the first time, I typically turn off to it, so to speak, and that's something that I've definitely been trying to be better at and work on and do things with it. So um, there are different ways to approach the quote and what it can do for you and what it can mean for you as well. Um, so some of the notes that I've got about how people can apply the quote to kind of um, influence their lives or move uh, situations they're in forward. Um, as with a lot of the quotes that we talk about, it kind of refers back to your mindset and how you approach different scenarios, because it's very easy to be influenced by previous behavior to lead you to a following outcome. So just because you touch something and it hurt doesn't mean it's going to hurt every time. You just got to find a better way of approaching a scenario. This is kind of what I'm trying to get to. So I think the first thing that I've got is reframing regret is really important. So rather than saying I should have started this earlier, people should try and use the mindset in their own heads or talk to themselves or the people around them by saying, I didn't know then what I know now, but I can use it today. And it might be something that you can apply to the thing you haven't done. And it may not be, but every day is a school day, and every time that you approach something for the first time, you're learning something new.
Yeah,
Treat
and
your
I
past
think
as a lesson bank.
I think with that bit I was saying with the kind of abstract examples is don't let regret handcuff you. I think that's a
Yeah,
really good point, because you almost, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy then that you've completely created in your own mind.
yeah. And the other thing it had there was treat your past as a lesson bank and not a life sentence.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Um, Number two on this list was, and this is something that I think a lot of people do, even outside of just applying it to quotes and trying to live a self-developed life, so to speak, is try and adopt a day one mentality. And every day can be your new day one. This is day one of me rewriting that story. This is day one of me finishing the story the way I want it to finish. Um, and you can help implement this by journaling, something that I know Joe will be quite proud of us for mentioning. So people should be writing down if you're going to try and apply this mentality, but you can write things down such as, if today was my starting line, what's one action I'd take forward to the life that I want? And then perhaps the second day there's a second action, and a third, and a fourth, and a fifth, and as every day goes on, you're able to apply a mentality shift to yourself. There's things that you could put on here, could be I don't know, making a savings transfer,
Yeah.
starting a savings account, or something along those lines, perhaps. Cooking a healthier meal, being smarter with your supermarket choices, perhaps. Calling somebody that perhaps you've neglected for a little while, maintaining a relationship that you could be doing. All of these things allow you to fix situations that may or may not have broken by may or may not have been your hand, if that makes sense.
Yes.
This allows people to live their life and work with the people that they want in their lives to find a, a positive way to stay in each other's lives. I think is what I'm trying to get at, and it doesn't have to be. They haven't spoken to me in so long. I'm not going to speak to them because I know there's a lot of relationships that go stale that way. But if you can treat like your life and approach it in this day one mentality, or um, rewriting your story every day to find it the better to find a better finish, you can apply that logic to putting the effort into some of those relationships as well. Any thoughts on that part?
I really like rewriting. Falling over, I think my tongue's too big. I can't talk properly. Rewriting your story every day. I really like that as a little bit of a, like on the wall mantra that you have. Every day is a fresh. What am I going to do? Where do I want to get?
Mm.
I really like that as a frame thing. There's a bit I just wanted to touch on, and conscious time, but you said it a bit earlier, where there's people who accept their path and go with it, and you envy them.
Sometimes.
And I think what made me think with, so I personally, I've achieved every single one of 20-year-old Lee's goals, if not in a lot of places exceeded them. If I look back at what I would have imagined for my life, I've done or gone beyond in a lot of places what that is. And when I'm 20-year-old Lee, it's like there's all this stuff that's out of reach, and I'll get there one day, and I'll keep working towards them and working towards them and working towards them. I think the misconception I had is that when all those things happen, it's like a load of boxes ticked, and I just put my feet up, and nothing ever changes, and I'm just content with life. Whereas actually, what I've got is a whole new set of goals that I want to achieve that are all
Yeah.
out of reach and just there, and I'm working towards them. And it wasn't like tick, 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 done, right, next list. They kind of incrementally move out and new things come in, and some of them might even dropped off and not be important anymore. But in terms of my pushing myself, I don't feel any different from that feeling than I did when I was 20, and I'm sure I won't do when I'm 50 and 60 and 70, 80 and 120. That's the goal, everyone, 120, because I just think that's the way my brain's wired, is that I'm never going to get to that point of, this is it, it's done. But actually, I've learned that feeling isn't the goal isn't to get rid of that feeling of striving to achieve something. It's leaning into that and using that to push and push and push, but acknowledging all the good stuff that's in place now. But I also want this and this and this. And it's just where you said you end. I can see there's a time where I think I would have felt, I just wish I could go with the flow and let what happens happens. But actually, I wouldn't be able to. I don't think I'd. There isn't a sense of fulfillment that comes with that because of the type of person I am, and I've just learned to kind
Sure.
of enjoy the journey and appreciate the steps ticking off, knowing there'll always be stuff in front of me. And actually, I embrace that now. And I say at the moment, and things change, I'll never retire. And that doesn't mean I'll continue doing the current job or a version of, or whether I am at retirement, the same job. But I will never get to a point where I'm like, right, I'm done. My whole life is just living off of whatever I've got and going playing golf every day and watching TV in the afternoon. There'll always be something that I'm trying to achieve that's just out of reach, because that's who I am, and I quite like that, and I find that quite exciting because I don't even know what those things are yet. But I definitely think I'd also at the point where I feel like one day I'll just get there and it's all ticked off. But actually, I've kind of rewired my brain on that thinking a little bit.
When I say that, I think I envy people like that. I do, because I think they live their life without worry. But I also think that if I tried to live my life that way, I would get bored. I would need things to do. I would need challenges to be set.
I would as well. That's why I think I'm always going to be pushing. And it's like I even have conversations with my dad now. He's at retirement age, and his worst thing is the idea of just not having something to get up for every day. And I think I'm definitely like, that's definitely me too.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So the next few steps in here are focus on the small wins and not the whole ending. And this is something that we talk about loads on this podcast, is marginal gains. Doing that 1% a day is better than doing 0% a day, even if it doesn't feel like that it is, and things like that. And this is another quote where it advocates for similar behaviors and similar beliefs. Big life changes don't happen in one leap. They're stitched together by consistent small actions. Break your ending into daily reps. 20 minutes of reading, a 10-minute walk, and one courageous conversation may be all it takes to start influencing some of those changes. It doesn't have to be I need to read a whole book. It doesn't have to be I need to run a marathon. It doesn't be I need to get married by the end of the week. It's the aggregation of marginal gains is something that we've advocated a lot for on this podcast, and something that we talk about loads. Number 4 is practice future me thinking. Ask yourself, what decision today would my future self thank me for? And I think that's also quite important, is a lot of time in life you're investing for your future, making sure you've got the right pension set up, making sure you've got savings set up for when you're older, making sure that perhaps if you have kids that you're setting some money aside for perhaps their financial assistance or whatever that looks like. I suppose that would be the dream for a lot of people. It's what decisions can I make today that will make future me's life easier, and that's something that, and I'm a procrastinator, so I never do things like this, but very rarely will I do something and I'll go, future me will be thankful for me doing that. And every time future me is thankful for me doing that. But I never learned the lesson to be better at it. I'll be perfectly honest.
So are you going to try that a bit more, or is this just an acknowledgement that you probably won't, but you should?
I probably won't, but I should. But that's pretty much what I've got on the list. I've just looked at our meeting time and we have about 90 seconds to wrap this up.
Okay.
So my takeaway for this is that you can't change what's happened, but you can change what's going to happen. And I think that's just a short form version of the quote. And looking forward and learning from the mistakes that have gone before you are crucial to not achieving the same outcome, but finding one better.
For me, that, and I've forgotten the exact quote already, but the message I've taken away is write your best story every day. And it ties into incremental gains. Yes, you want to do it big time, but just worry about doing it for that day and that day and that day and that day, and it all builds itself. And I really like that.
Yeah, totally agree.
Stuck with me. Right. Inspirationation.org.uk, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Truncated version of all the shilling. Everyone knows it by now. Jose, there was no secret message. I just wanted you to listen to the end, so I hope you have and you're laughing right now. And I'll count us down. 3, 2, 1. Inspiration Nation. Catch you guys
later. Oh my God, I just had a heart attack. I was like, I didn't record the episode.